Hey everyone, it's time once again for one of my favorite videos to share with you. That would be, of course, my favorite releases of this year, 2022, part 2. We already had one video of 12 releases, and I thought it would be 12 releases for this video too. It's a baker's dozen this time. We get 13 albums. Well, actually, a little more than that. We have 13 different artists. Some of those artists did a couple of albums each this year. So let's dig in. I'm really excited to share these with you. First up, in no particular order, except that this was a very special album for me this year, and that would be Jaka Berger and Joe Lovano with the title Once Around the Room on ECM Records. This is a tribute to the great Paul Motion, the amazing jazz composer and arranger and band leader, all things he was really brilliant in. I don't want to pick a favorite album of this year because it's that would be almost impossible. There were too many good choices this year. But this one's very close to the top of the list. And why, you might ask? First of all, there's 3 bass players, 2 drummers, Joe Lovano, of course, on sax, and Jakob Berger on guitar, with lots of ring modulator. So can't go wrong there. Some of my favorite things. Next up, we had a lot of music this year from Ukraine, and rightfully so. A way to amplify the voices of Ukrainian people, a way to express the emotions and thoughts going on with the war this year. And just some albums. I don't know what the story about this one is, why it took so long to come out, but I'm very glad it came out, and I think this might be the best example from Ukraine this year. It's from the iconic Valentin Silvestrov, a Ukrainian composer. This came out actually on his 85th birthday, so maybe they were saving it for a special occasion. But the music was actually composed for the Maidan events that happened in 2014. It's seemingly very relevant to release it this year, though. The music is just incredible. It's gorgeous, it's beautiful, and it's absolutely very Silvestrov. I mean, I think you could listen to this blindfolded without knowing what the album is, and it wouldn't take more than a few seconds to know that it's Silvestrov. It's got his classic harmony in there. Really incredible. This was recorded in one of the most beautiful churches I've ever seen in the world, St. Michael's in Kyiv, and the recording is it sounds just as beautiful as the church looks. So definitely get this record, support Ukraine, and this is a really great choice. Next up, shifting gears entirely, so we're going to have kind of a fun out of order list today, but this album here, so I've had Billy Strings on my best of list last year with his previous Rounder album. Now we have a new Rounder album, something in an entirely different direction. This one is titled Me and Dad, and this is about as hard-driving, hard-hitting bluegrass as you could ever possibly hope for. And how could it not be when you have Ronnie and Rob McCurry on there, Michael Cleveland? Of course it's going to be the most hard-driving you've ever heard. So this is an incredible record, great addition. And this one, this specific copy is on egg drop soup colored vinyl. So how about that? Let's see. Next up, so I have mostly hard copies of everything I'm talking about today as a way to support those artists. I would highly encourage, if there's any of these albums that you are interested in or know that you will really enjoy, buy the hard copy. It goes a lot farther than just streaming it or downloading it. So get the hard copy. Plus you get a nice package, and you can read the liner notes. Some of them, though, are digital only, or some of them have not made it to me in time, and that would be the case with the next artist, Thollem. Thollem always gives us a couple albums every year, and this second half of the year he had 2 more amazing titles. The first one is under the moniker Hot Pursuit of Happiness. The title is This Day's Called Tuesday, and this features him on synth and vocals. It's really an incredible record. Just a lot of great lyrical content here, really handling all the topics going on right now politically and socially, and there's some true moments of lyrical genius in here that I think you can only get from someone like Thollem. Next up, I'll put a picture here, is, because I don't have the CD yet, that's on its way from Italy, and that's with the Sicilian Improvisors Orchestra on Super Pang Records. It's about an hour long, full of really intense improvisation. You don't want to miss either of these. They're both totally different albums, but they're both unmistakably Thollem. It's very clear, and they're must listen. So get both of those. Another album that I don't have the hard copy of yet, and a little bit similar style music, because and I don't have it yet because it's on its way from Slovenia, is an album on the Edition Friforma label, a subsidiary of Inexhaustible Editions. This album is titled Treatise, composed by Cornelius Cardew, performed by Jaka Berger. Inexhaustible Editions and Edition Friforma have released a handful of albums this year. They're all incredible. I haven't found a single release yet that I didn't like or wouldn't recommend to someone, so go on their Bandcamp, check them out. They're a great team. I really love them over there. But this album specifically, the moment I turned it on, it grabbed my attention and kept it there for the entire duration of this record. This, for me, is everything that a solo record should be. It's just incredible. Perfect, I would say. This was definitely one of the highlights of this year for me, so go check that one out. Another title that I don't have the hard copy of yet, but have my order in for, is Paul Giger, Ars Moriendi on ECM New Series. Paul's albums never disappoint. This album is astonishingly beautiful and also incredibly fresh. A third of the album is composed by Bach, while the rest is Giger's own music, which pushes genre boundaries, combines numerous styles, and results in a super exciting listen. This is definitely a major highlight of the year. And it's also, on an interesting note, one of the very few ECM records this year that clocked in what I would consider an album length. A lot of ECM titles this year, and a lot of albums overall, have been 30 to 40 minutes. I don't know if we just don't have the attention anymore for a full album, but this new album here was in over an hour, so it's I'm ready. It was a great listen, so keep them coming as far as I'm concerned. Edward Soul, he gave us 3 new titles this year to the best of my count. I hope that I didn't miss any. These are the 3 here. We have a CD, this one is a duet with Anna Curtis on CD. You get this, look at how cool this device is. You got this case here, and then an envelope inside of it. This is on a new record label, which may have the greatest record label name ever. It's titled I Shall Sing Until My Land is Free. That is, of course, in response to Ukraine. This is a label started by a Ukrainian gentleman that lives in Germany now. This is an incredible album to listen to. Actually, all 3 of Edward's albums this year, they're really just an amazing listen, because they take you on these really great journeys. Each of them quite different, but they really take you on some different journeys musically and sonically. So he had 2 splits, or 2 duets. He had that one, and then this one on his tape label, Sentimental Productions. This one is a duet, and then he had a one that's just himself. This maybe is my favorite, actually, from the year, also on his tape label Sentimental, and this is Glass Eye and Rubber Leg. This really highly recommended, but all 3 of them. And not only can you hear some great music, you can also support Ukrainian artists by purchasing those. Next up, if you recall from last year's video, one of my favorite releases was Melissa Carper's album. Now she's given us another new one, and this is incredible. On all of these, I would of course recommend you to buy the physical format, but for this one specifically, I would recommend vinyl. And not because of any, this is so superior or anything like that. It's simply because these songs sound old. This record sounds like it came right out of the 60s. And it is just so well done, so well recorded, so well produced, so well arranged, that I think it would be, to the unsuspecting listener, they would think that you've played a really retro album from the 60s, and they wouldn't have any idea it's from 2022. Melissa's a genius. She really nailed this. And not only that, she's really an amazing and sweet person. So the support for her is just, a very good decision to buy such an album. It's really great. It's authentic. She's a lovely person. And I just think that the medium of vinyl for the style of this music, you just couldn't get a better choice than to get that. But get it any way you can, because it's well deserving of your support. Now, speaking of mediums, a very interesting release. Oh, and for Melissa, it also comes with this lovely poster, so that, and lyrics on the other side. So now, speaking about mediums, this year, one of my newest favorite bands released a new record, and that would be Dawes, a new album on Rounder titled Misadventures of Doomscroller. This one was an instant love for me. They did a previous record on Rounder, which it took me actually, honestly, a long time to finally get into. At first I didn't like it, but then I ultimately did end up really loving that album. But this one, on the other hand, immediately I loved it, and I started sending it to my friends and said, isn't this great? And they all thankfully liked it too. So of course this came out on standard 12-inch vinyl, but it then also came out on this limited edition. You can see it's smaller size. This is a three album box set on 10-inch discs that go at 45 RPM instead of 33. They released it, if I understand correctly, partially due to the composition of the album. The way they have composed, there's fewer tracks than usual for them, but they're longer. Longer compositions, more chances to really flesh out the piece and really explore the content in there. And I think that they kind of programmed it in a way that you have to flip over the disc a lot more often than on a CD or even on this big vinyl or download. Here you have the actual experience of like, okay, here's one set, now here's like another part of the album, here's yet another part of the album. But aside from all of that, I have heard a lot of people say that these would expectedly sound better. I was unsure if that would actually be the case, but it does. There is so much more clarity on these 45s than on the 33. Everything just comes through much clearer, so much so that I don't think I'll be listening to this one. I like it because it's a cool color, but and I'll keep it. But as far as clarity of the music, this is just a much better pressing, a much better final result. So that was quite an interesting experience this year to discover that. But no matter what medium you get it, get this new album by Dawes because it's really great. Alright, we're getting towards the end. Are we saving the best for last? You'll have to be the judge of that. I do hope that you will tell me your favorite releases of this year in the comments, and tell me if I got any of your favorites in this video, and let me know some that I missed that you think should have been here. I'm really curious to know what you all are listening to. So, next up is a real highlight of the year, a real gem, but also very bittersweet, I must say, and that's Dan Tyminski's newest EP, One More Time Before You Go. It's a tribute to, of course, the iconic and legendary and everyone's favorite Tony Rice. Like I've said before, I think it's a very good case to make that I wouldn't even be playing Bluegrass if it wasn't for Tony Rice, and that seems to be a similar story for a lot of other people out there. And Tony Rice definitely had a profound impact on Dan Tyminski. This album here has one new song that Dan wrote in tribute to Tony, and then he does 4 tracks that Tony had recorded and really made kind of part of his signature sound and repertoire. So get this, the first time I heard it, I got chills listening to it because it sounded so close to Tony, and it was kind of it was just wild. I don't know what to say. It was just really kind of surreal to hear something that was recorded very recently, but it sounded just like Tony, and so this was a real treasure to listen to. I do know, don't know a lot about it, but I do know that Dan's new Bluegrass band has an album coming out next year, so next year's already looking really good. And speaking of Tony, there's another new gem this year. I'll put a picture up because it's download only. This is on David Rissman's Acoustic Oasis label. He gave us a live album earlier this year, which I put in my first video. Now we have another one. This one I like even better because it's from what I would say is one of Tony's best eras. Here is 1989 at the actually New Year's Eve, so almost 1990. And he's got Bill Emerson on banjo on a couple tunes. You can't go wrong with that. It was recorded on New Year's Eve, so maybe this year on New Year's Eve, why don't you turn it on and pretend that you're seeing a Tony Rice concert on New Year's Eve, just like these lucky people got to do. So this was a really... thank you, David Rissman, for releasing this, and I hope there's a lot more to come. And one more Tony Rice connection for this year is this incredible Bluegrass 2022. If you've seen my previous videos, you know how important the Bluegrass insert year albums were to me, starting with Bluegrass 95. Then they did a bunch, and then they skipped a whole lot of years in between, and now we have a few more ever so often. You wouldn't see me disappointed at all if there'd be a new one every year, but I'll take any that they want to put out. This one had a tune from Tony Rice on it, a tune from Vassar Clements, a tune from John Hartford, and a couple more. Pretty short album, but really great, and the music and the solos were wonderful, and when you hit my three favorite people, it doesn't get any better than that. So get this, and let's keep the Bluegrass series going. I'd love to see a few more of these. Lastly, for this video to close out the year, I think chronologically it was the most recent release of this year, just at the very end. This came from Druha Trava. I don't have the CD yet because it's still in Czech Republic, but I've listened to it digitally. I'll put the album art up here. What I love most about this album is it shows Druha Trava's willingness to explore new sounds, new styles, and to continue evolving as a band, even after over 30 years together. The title translates to Part 2. That's a follow-up to their Part 1 from 2020. The material is quite different from anything they put out before, but I really love their boldness in pursuing new sounds and pursuing such new creative work. I think any band that's willing to explore such new sounds and new changes and willing to always be evolving, that says a lot for how mature and how professional they are. And Druha Trava has always been at the top of any of those qualities: professional or serious or hardworking, talented. They're just some of the best musicians on the planet, and together they're putting out some amazing music. So give that a listen. If you're not a Bluegrass fan, you'll love this. If you are a Bluegrass fan, I think you'll also still love it. It's really new territory, and it's great. So get that, and if you visit Czech Republic, you can get the CD in person and go see one of their concerts. Well, that's all I have for this video. I think 16 maybe total records that I can recommend from the second half. I could recommend many more that I loved from this year, but we'd be here for another 2 hours. So just go start searching for music. You'll find a lot. And then I had 12 more from the previous video. So I hope that everyone is out there listening to a lot of great new music this year. I already have noticed some announcements for next year. Looks to be another great year coming up. So see you all soon. Thanks for watching. Happy New Year.